I still remember that night like it had just happened. The night everything changed. The night I realized blood doesn't always mean loyalty, and sometimes the worst betrayal comes from your own family. I had been dating Ava for 8 months. She's a pediatric nurse, 25, compassionate, calm under pressure, and the kind of person who remembers the names of every elderly patient she's ever cared for. The kind of woman who makes you want to be better. And somehow, she had chosen me. We'd finally reached the point where she was going to meet my family. I was nervous, not because of her, but because of them. Especially my older brother, Ryan. He's always had this presence. Charming on the surface, but in private, he was manipulative and entitled. Growing up, he was the golden child. I, on the other hand, was the one constantly being told to watch my tone, or be more like Ryan. No matter what he did, our parents found a way to defend him. And no matter how hard I tried, I was always the one in the wrong. Still, I thought maybe time had softened things. I hoped that with Ava beside me, things would go smoothly. That hope didn't last long. The moment we stepped through the front door of my parents' house, Ryan made a beeline for Ava. I barely had time to introduce her before he pushed past our mom and pulled her into a hug that lasted far too long. Ava tensed, awkwardly patting his back before stepping away. I tried to laugh it off, but I could already see it in her eyes. Discomfort. She was too polite to say anything, but I knew that look. All through dinner, Ryan made himself the center of attention. Every time Ava tried to speak, he interrupted her with some over-the-top compliment or fake inside joke, jokes that didn't make sense because they'd just met. He kept brushing her arm when he spoke, leaning in far too close, acting like they had some shared history. I could see her forcing smiles, nodding politely, but her shoulders were stiff, and she kept glancing at me as if asking, "Is this normal?" It wasn't. I tried to redirect the conversation, tried to pull her into safer territory, but Ryan wouldn't let up. At one point, he shoved past me just to sit next to her. Our parents said nothing. My dad laughed like Ryan was being charming, and my mom just kept pouring wine. Then came the worst part. I had gone to grab dessert from the fridge. I was only gone a minute, but when I came back into the kitchen, I found Ryan standing inches from Ava, one arm on the counter, effectively trapping her. She was uncomfortable, backing away until she was pressed against the cabinet. He was saying something low, but I caught the end of it, something about how she deserved someone who appreciated her, not someone who always played it safe. He reached for her hair, and she recoiled. That's when I lost it. "Ryan," I snapped, stepping between them. "Back off." He smiled like it was all a joke. "Relax, man. We're just talking." Ava quickly walked past him and stood beside me, her face pale. Her hands were shaking. "We're leaving," I said. My mom appeared in the doorway, confused. "What's going on?" "Ask your perfect son," I replied, guiding Ava out before she had to hear any more. That car ride home was quiet. Ava stared out the window, and I kept one hand on her knee, trying to ground us both. When we got back to my apartment, she finally spoke. "I didn't want to ruin anything," she said softly, "but he made me feel like I was being watched, touched, cornered, and no one said anything." I apologized over and over. Not because I had done it, but because I had brought her there, because I hadn't seen it coming, because I didn't stop it soon enough. That night was the beginning of the end. Not for us, but for the illusion I'd carried for years, that somehow I could keep both worlds together. Ava and the family I had always hoped would someday treat me with the respect I deserved. Instead, they proved they never really saw me at all. After that dinner, things didn't settle, they got worse. Much worse. Ava tried to move on, to push through, but something in her had shifted. She stopped wearing her hair down. She stopped walking alone to her car after her shifts. She never said it aloud, but I saw the way she kept glancing over her shoulder whenever someone walked behind us. Then the messages started. At first, it was subtle. An unknown number calling once, maybe twice, no voicemail, no texts. Just a hang-up. Then came the voicemails, heavy breathing, silence. And then, late one night, a whisper. "You looked beautiful at dinner." She didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. Ava changed her number. The calls stopped for 2 days. Then they started again. This time, new numbers. New voices. Someone sent a photo of her getting into her car after work. The angle was close, too close. She started having panic attacks. Her manager at the hospital offered her extended breaks, but I could see she was struggling. It was like someone had draped a fog over her life. Then she called me from work one evening, her voice shaking. "There's a man outside. Just standing there. Watching." I raced there as fast as I could. He was gone by the time I arrived, but the look on her face told me this wasn't her imagination. The hospital pulled up security footage the next day. There he was. A man in a dark hoodie, lingering by the parking lot gate for over 30 minutes. Just watching. We reported it to the police. They made a note. That was all. Then came the moment that shifted everything. I recognized one of the guys in the footage, Tyler. A smug, loud guy who used to hang around Ryan in high school. The type who thought he was above the rules because his dad was a big-shot sergeant. I remembered him bragging at parties, flashing his fake badge for laughs, and calling girls practice wives. I felt sick. I started digging. A couple of burner accounts that had followed Ava on Instagram had mutuals, people I knew were connected to Ryan. One of the voicemails? I recognized the laugh in the background. It was subtle, but I knew it. I had grown up with that laugh. It was Ryan. I waited until I was calm. Or at least I told myself I was. I went to our parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. The air felt thick before I even knocked. Mom opened the door with a smile like nothing was wrong. Ryan was sitting on the couch, watching sports. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "You think this is funny?" I said quietly. He glanced at me, eyebrow raised. "What?" "You're behind the calls. The photos. You think I wouldn't figure it out?" He leaned back, smirking. "Maybe you're just paranoid. Or maybe your girlfriend likes attention." I saw red. I don't even remember throwing the punch. Just the feel of my knuckles against his jaw, the sound of my mother screaming, and the way my father yanked me back like I was the villain in all this. "Enough," Dad shouted. "You don't come into this house attacking your brother." "He's harassing Ava," I snapped. "He's sending people to follow her. She's scared to sleep, scared to go to work." "She probably led him on," Mom said flatly. "You know how girls are. They like to flirt, and then cry wolf." I stared at her in disbelief. "You think she asked for this?" "She should have dressed more modestly," she added, folding her arms like she had just delivered a fact, not a slap. Ryan stood in the doorway now, holding an ice pack to his cheek. "She needs a lesson. That's all." I left before I did something I'd regret more than a broken jaw. We went back to the police again. Ava gave them the voicemail, the screenshots, the footage, the list of numbers, the photo from the parking lot. The officer glanced at the name, Tyler Jenkins. He closed the folder. "That's Sergeant Jenkins' son." And just like that, the tone changed. They said it was probably a misunderstanding. That maybe Ava had been too friendly. That without direct threats, there wasn't much they could do. Ava sat there, shaking. She looked at me and whispered, "They're not going to help me." I didn't respond because she was right. I should have known better when my mother invited us over for dinner again. She called it a chance to clear the air, a calm evening to heal old wounds. I wanted to believe her. I think Ava did too, at least enough to say yes, even though her hands trembled when she set down the phone. She spent the whole day trying to look composed. Hair tied back, a soft blue blouse, minimal makeup. I could see the anxiety in her posture, but she still showed up. That's the kind of person Ava is, someone who gives second chances even when she shouldn't. But the moment we stepped into that house, it was clear something was wrong. The dining table wasn't set. There was no scent of food. Instead, the living room was arranged like a group therapy session. My mother sat on one end of the couch. My father stood with his arms crossed. And, to my horror, Ryan was there too, along with Tyler and two other guys I barely recognized from high school. "What is this?" I asked sharply. My mom patted the couch cushion beside her. "Just sit down, honey. This is for your good." Ava hesitated behind me, already sensing it. And then it began. Ryan was the first to speak, smug and rehearsed. "Look, man, We didn't want to do this like some kind of ambush, but Ava's behavior has affected all of us. All of you, I repeated, stunned. Tyler jumped in next. She's been making up stories, saying people are stalking her, but she smiles when she talks to us, dresses nicely, acts friendly, then turns around and says we're predators. My father nodded in agreement, like that somehow made sense. Then came the worst of it. They started describing Ava's routines, what time she got off work, the route she took to her car, where she liked to get coffee on Wednesdays. They quoted things she'd said at work or in passing, as if that proved she was leading them on. One of them even pulled out a printout of her work schedule, circling suspicious days when she called in sick. Maybe she needs help, my mother said gently. Like real therapy. These accusations, this paranoia, it's not normal, sweetheart. Ava looked frozen. I turned to her and saw the color drain from her face. Her breathing quickened. She clutched her chest. She can't breathe, I said, stepping toward her. I'm fine, Ava whispered, though she wasn't. I need air. Ryan stood in front of the door. Don't storm out. We're trying to help. You're stalking her, I snapped. You're humiliating her. No one followed her, Tyler said casually. We just wanted to make sure she was safe. Ava let out a quiet sob and stumbled back a step. I grabbed her arm and turned toward the door. But before I could leave, my father's voice thundered through the room. So that's it? You're going to walk away from your family? Over some girl who's manipulating you? I turned back slowly. She's not some girl. She's the only one in this room who's telling the truth. My mother looked at me with disappointment sharp enough to cut. Then you've made your choice. I have. We walked out without another word. When we got home, Ava curled into herself on the couch and didn't speak for hours. I sat beside her, holding her hand, but nothing I said made a difference. Something in her broke that night, not just because of what they said, but because it proved that even when she screamed the truth, no one wanted to hear it. The next few days were worse. Rumors started circulating at her hospital. Someone had emailed anonymous complaints to HR calling her unstable, saying she had accused co-workers of harassment without evidence. A patient's mother reported overhearing nurses gossiping that Ava was probably getting attention on purpose. It didn't take long for the supervisor to call her in for a meeting. She came home with her face blank and her hands trembling. They're putting me on review, she whispered. If this gets worse, I could lose my license. That's when we knew we couldn't stay silent anymore. We contacted a lawyer, gathered the voicemails, the photos, the footage, and the screenshots. Ava wrote everything down, from the first hug at dinner to the ambush at my parents' house. Our lawyer read it all and looked at us grimly. You have a case, but this won't be easy. We started talking about moving. A new city. A new start. Somewhere they didn't know her face or mine. Somewhere the whispers couldn't follow. But deep down, we both knew the damage had already been done. The last place I ever imagined something like that would happen was at a wedding. Holly had always been the one person in my family who believed us. My cousin, my childhood partner in crime, the only one who called after the intervention to ask if Ava was okay, not me, just Ava. When she got engaged, she asked both of us to come. I'll have extra security. You'll be safe. I promise, she told us over the phone. I wasn't sure. Ava was hesitant, too. But Holly had never let us down, and Ava wanted so badly to feel normal again, to wear a dress, eat cake, dance under string lights, and not look over her shoulder every 5 minutes. So we went. It was a beautiful venue, an old winery turned into a garden hall. Warm lights, soft music, familiar faces. Holly looked radiant. Miller, her husband-to-be, greeted us at the entrance with a bear hug and a quiet, "We've got your back." Ava looked beautiful. I hadn't seen her like that in a long time. Her shoulders relaxed, and she even laughed a little as we danced during cocktail hour. And for a while we thought, maybe things were turning around. But peace doesn't last when people like Ryan exist. Sometime after dinner, Ava went to the bathroom. I stayed by the bar, chatting with Holly's younger brother. I remember glancing at my watch, thinking she'd been gone a while. Just as I was about to go check, I heard shouting. Then chaos. Ava stumbled out of the hallway, her dress torn at the shoulder, blood on her lip. Miller's brother Adam came running out right behind her, shouting, "He's still back there. Call the cops." I ran to her, heart racing, and pulled her into my arms. She was shaking violently, struggling to breathe. I tried to scream, she gasped. He was waiting for me by the bathroom. He grabbed me, he tried to. Adam had tackled Ryan just before things went further. Security arrived within seconds and pinned him to the ground. He was still ranting, eyes wild, spit flying from his mouth as he screamed that Ava ruined his life and that she wanted this from the start. Phones were out everywhere. Guests recording. Some gasping, some shouting. Holly stood frozen in shock, her bouquet still in hand, while her groom called 911. By the time the police arrived, Ryan was still kicking and spewing filth. Ava was holding a tissue to her mouth, face white as porcelain. And then, of course, my parents showed up. They had been invited to the wedding too. And the moment they realized who was being arrested, they tried everything to stop it. My mom shrieked at the officers. "This is a mistake. He was provoked." My dad barked, "You're arresting the wrong person. That girl has been harassing our family for months." The officers didn't listen. They had video. They had witnesses. They had injuries and a timeline of escalating harassment spanning nearly a year. The police cuffed Ryan and walked him out of the venue in front of everyone. Ava was taken to the hospital. She had bruising on her arms and a fractured rib. Nothing life-threatening, thank God, but enough to make everything real to anyone who had doubted before. Our lawyer finally had what he needed. The footage went viral within the hour. A few of the guests posted it online before Holly could stop them. Within 2 days, news stations picked it up. A local man arrested for attempted assault at a wedding. The comments exploded with shock and support. But not for my family. I received a message from my mother the next morning. "You've embarrassed us beyond repair. You and that girl deserve each other. Don't ever come back." Ava didn't cry when I told her. She just nodded. "Good," she said quietly. "Let them go." We made the decision that week. We packed up our apartment. Ava took a leave of absence from the hospital. I left my job. The lawyer handled everything from that point forward. The case, the restraining orders, the depositions. We found a small place 2 states away. Quiet town, surrounded by trees. Far from where all of it happened. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Ava slept through the night without waking up in panic. Sometimes I still think about the night of that wedding, the glittering lights, the sound of Ava's laughter before it all fell apart. But I also think about the way she stood at the police station after giving her statement. Head held high, voice steady. She wasn't broken. She never had been. She had just been fighting to be believed. Now she was finally. We moved in late spring, just as the trees were beginning to bloom. The air smelled cleaner in our new town, the streets quieter, and every morning felt like the first inhale after years of suffocating. Ava started a new job at a pediatric clinic within 2 weeks. I got lucky. A tech firm downtown needed someone with my background. It wasn't just a fresh start. It felt like a resurrection. The nightmares faded gradually. At first, Ava still flinched when men walked too close behind her in grocery stores, or when an unfamiliar number lit up her phone. But slowly, over time, that fear loosened its grip. We learned to breathe again. Ava bloomed in ways I hadn't seen before. She painted again, something she used to love, but had abandoned for years. I'd come home from work to find her humming with a brush in one hand and tea in the other. Her laugh returned, the one that always started in her chest and made her eyes sparkle. That laugh had been buried so long I was afraid we'd lost it forever. We got married in a little garden ceremony, just us, a few close friends, and no drama. No invitations to the past. It rained that morning, but the sun came out right as Ava walked down the aisle. She looked like peace itself. A year later, Emma was born. Our daughter had Ava's soft brown eyes and the same stubborn streak that made me fall in love with her mother in the first place. From the moment I held her, I promised myself, she will never know fear the way we did. She will never doubt that she is safe, that she is wanted, that she is enough. For years passed. Then the phone rang. It was a number I hadn't seen in years. My mother. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Her voice cracked instantly. "He's been arrested," she sobbed. "Your brother, Ryan, he's in jail." I didn't say anything. She went on, breathless and desperate. "It's bad. He hurt his wife, Rachel. Badly. There are bruises, scars, and broken bones." She finally went to the police. I sat down, holding the phone tighter than necessary. And she broke down completely. "Your father helped him cover it up. Paid off Rachel's cousin to keep quiet. Threatened to ruin her father's business if she talked." I didn't know. I swear I didn't. But I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I felt nothing but a heavy, familiar exhaustion. "Yes, you did," I said flatly. "You always knew. You just didn't care until it turned into a headline." "She's leaving him," she whispered. "She filed for divorce. She's talking to a therapist now. And I've started therapy too." "I hope you stick with it," I replied. There was silence on the line. Then, "Will you come home?" "I am home," I said. And I hung up. I blocked her number before she could call again. 2 weeks later, it was confirmed. Ryan had taken a plea deal. 8 years. He would be eligible for parole in 6. My father, meanwhile, was under formal investigation for obstruction and witness intimidation. Ava and I watched the news coverage from our couch, Emma playing on the rug in front of us, blissfully unaware of the storm her family had escaped. And then something unexpected. Rachel reached out. Her message was gentle, respectful. She said she remembered meeting Ava once at a family gathering and that she'd heard everything. She thanked us for surviving, for speaking out, for walking away when no one else would. Ava invited her to visit. They talked for hours about trauma, control, escape, and healing. Rachel stayed the weekend with us, and when she left, Ava hugged her like she was passing on some invisible armor. I saw something in Rachel's eyes that reminded me of Ava back then, haunted, but still holding on. That's the thing about surviving people like Ryan and families like ours. You never truly forget, but you do learn how to live again. One night, after Emma had gone to bed and the house was quiet, I stood at her doorway and watched her sleep. I thought about everything: the phone calls, the stalking, the assault, the betrayal, the loneliness, the therapy, the healing, the life we rebuilt from scratch. I thought about my parents and how they gave everything to the son who broke people while rejecting the one who tried to protect them. And I thought about Ava, her strength, her love, the way she fought for both of us when I couldn't find the words. The cycle ends with us. Emma will never hear that love comes with conditions. She will never be made to shrink so others can feel big. She will grow up knowing how to use her voice and that her no will always mean no. She will grow up seeing what safety looks like, what respect feels like, and what love truly is. And when she's old enough to ask, I'll tell her the truth. Not all of it, not at once, but enough to show her that walking away from what hurts you doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. We ended it, that legacy of silence, manipulation, and denial. And in its place, we built a life filled with light.